people need to embrace this community. We've talked about that earlier. You know, it's so easy to be negative, and it's a lot harder to be positive. But look at the history of this community is amazing.
This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, a show for people ready to turn visions into realities and ideas into businesses. Hey, I'm Luke Henry, and each week I lead conversations with Main Street dreamers who took the leap to launch a business, renovate a building, or start a movement. Their ideas, their mindsets, and their inspirations, as well as some of the highs and lows along the way. This is a place for dreamers, creators, developers, and entrepreneurs to learn, share, and be inspired to change your community through small business. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, Luke Henry here. This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, and we're so excited to have you with us this week and let you in on a little conversation with my friend Mike Zucker. So Mike is with me here in the studio, and I got to tell you, I'm excited because we started talking before we started recording, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, this is too rich to not be getting this on recording. We got to, launch in here because we just started talking like a couple of old friends, because that's the kind of guy that Mike is. He makes friends out of everybody and has been a pillar in the Marion community for many years. And somebody that I've looked up to as somebody that's been well established here in Marion well before I came along. And so glad to have you with me today, Mike.
Well, once again, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is, I'm not big on this, Luke, but I enjoy this and I enjoy your mission, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So a little history here. I was just remembering as I was preparing for having you on here that you wrote our very first policy for the Brickyard before we started our whole Main Street Reimagined journey. So that was a fun thing. So for those that don't know, Mike operated Zucker Insurance Agency here in Marion for many years, and we'll hear that as part of his story. And most recently, we were talking. He's not retired. He's just kind of like downshifted a gear, I think, but he's went into a new business venture, which is Mike's Deli on Main. So Mike, those that maybe are listening and have not yet visited Mike's Deli on Main, because you're fairly new there still, tell them what they would find if they walk through your front door.
We're trying to keep it simple, stupid, Luke. Basically, we want to have excellent food, great service, and a clean environment. And we take it from there. Corned beef, deli sandwiches, corned beef, Reuben, turkey club, Italian sub. We're very fortunate we have a excellent chef that makes his own soups, his own dressings, his own baked goods. As well as I do, Luke, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, and I'm very fortunate to have Cameron Arn as my manager and chef.
Yeah, he's done an awesome job, and so you've got all those staples and everything that I've had. I have not tried everything on the menu yet, but everything I've had has been excellent. And so you got all those staple sandwiches and everything that you mentioned, but then he mixes it up with some like weekly specials. I see, there's, like you said, it's soups and different baked goods that kind of rotate, and those sell out typically before I can get in there and get any. So that's got to be a little quicker on your feet. But doing the pigskin pizzas on some of the weekends for the football kind of crowd, and lots of different fun stuff like that, right? So it's been fun to see that evolving even as you've opened, which was just about 3 months ago or so.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Mike's Deli on Main. So this has been a fun journey to watch. I think you guys did a fantastic job, not only launching the business, but you own the building as well. and have completely renovated that since buying that a handful of years ago. So tell us a little bit about that part of the journey, the building part, and doing commercial building projects. And you owned a commercial building in Marion prior, where you had your agency and had some other tenants there. But you've learned a lot through that process too.
Oh boy, yeah. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. You learn, and I had no idea of a lot of the things that were important. Complying with the state, complying with the health department, but you just do it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason to complain. I mean, you look at what has to be done and do it the right way.
Yeah.
And as you're doing. Unfortunately, in the past, we've had a lot of downtown people that, you know, kind of cobblestone things together. And,
Yes.
and you know, it's hurt us a little bit.
Right. Right.
But you know, it's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
One day you're euphoric, and the next day, you know, you've crashed in the basement. You know? So,
Yeah.
But hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
endure.
Yeah. Well, what I admire, I think, is that you're figuring it out as you go. Yeah. And you spoke to that, where having to meet commercial building code and bringing these old buildings up to code is, as you said, is no small challenge in many cases, where things have been cobbled together, things are out of compliance, codes have changed, use types have changed, and you're just kind of relying on some experts to help guide you through that process. But there are people that will help through that process, right? And then, you know, turning what was most recently a barbershop and salon into a restaurant was, again, kind of no small changeover. And so learning that, and then getting the health department involved to learn their expectations, and talk a little bit about, again, maybe there's somebody out there that's considering wanting to do a project like this in their town, or even here locally in Marion. What did that, I mean, specifically look like in terms of, did you have them come and walk through initially? Did you rely on your architect, or how did that go?
We actually relied on the architect to begin with, but before we even started, went to the health department and said, look, we're going to put in a deli. We want to do this the right way. You tell us what we need to do. And I mean, you know as well as I do, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And I can remember my uncle telling me, Michael, if you're going into business, you need to have a very good lawyer, a very good accountant, and a very good bank.
Yep.
And so, but I've been very fortunate in being able to secure people to help me look good, because I'm pretty much a dummy, Luke. I mean, you know, but it's been fabulous. The health department's been fabulous. They really get, kicked in the rear too much. A lot of people want to complain about them, but they've been fabulous with me, very proactive. If we have any questions, we contact them, and they're immediate, to get back to us. So there was no I in team, but there's an I in win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Well, it's great to hear that, you have had a great experience there. And I think it is important to be proactive and to start with being communicative. Yes. I think that a lot of people do get themselves into trouble because they either, just kind of go without asking questions, or maybe they kind of try to skirt the process and then get in trouble somewhere along the way, and then have to backtrack. And sometimes that can be very costly, both time and money.
Positively. And you're right that, having your building up to code from an electrical standpoint, it used to be so easy to open a restaurant. You're a restaurateur, you just turn on the light and but the electrical was bad, this was bad. And with all the buildings that you have renovated, you've seen a lot more than me. Yeah.
It can be difficult because there's a lot of different factors and people that you have to work with or to please, so yes. in your case, you're talking about all of the different commercial code compliance. Sometimes that involves working with the public utilities, which is a great way to flex your patience muscle because some of them
You're
don't get
being
in a
kind,
big
Luke.
hurry. Yeah. And then working with the health department in some cases, like that, and then also working with your team to try to build a viable product. Working with the city in some cases, you worked with regional planning and the design review board to get your exterior all approved, which I was actually in that meeting with you. So I was excited because I got to kind of see what it was going to look like before you actually did it. And then, kudos to you also for actually then following through. And it looked just like it did on the render that I looked at, several months ago in that meeting. Your signage, the lighting, the colors, just very inviting, clean from the outside and then, clean from the inside. And so it's been a really nice project that you put together there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So folks are listening and haven't been in, I certainly do encourage you to visit Mike's Deli on Main to dine in, or there's carry out or even delivery options in some cases. And so Mike and his team are very accommodating. So I want to back up a little bit though and talk about, again, you've got just a few years on me, I think.
Excuse my language. I'm an old fart, Luke.
Yeah. So, but you've been around the block several more times than I have been, and really here in downtown and in Marion in general a lot longer than I have. So I'd love to hear your whole story. Where you started, what that progression looked like career wise, and I don't even know if you're a lifer here or if you were a transplant at some point, but kind of take us through that whole timeline, Mike.
Okay. Well, I was born in Springfield, but always remembering life, we moved back here. My father, bless his soul, passed away when I was 3, and my mother was from here, so we came back here. So all I remember is Marion. Great town to grow up in, fabulous education in the city schools. Go to college, don't get my college degree, but always promised my mom that she'd never have to pay, and I was on the 5-year plan, so it was time for me to go out and get a job. Started out at the OK Cafe as a bartender.
Okay.
Moved on to the oil fields at Drill Co. out on Pull Lane Road. And I wasn't home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's because I was traveling. And as a young kid, that was not acceptable,
Yeah.
Wanted to be with the family. Saw they had in the Columbus Dispatch, a job wanted for young, athletic, oriented men. I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to be working in a sporting goods store, because I am a frustrated jock. Well, it was going door to door selling insurance.
Wow. Okay.
And that was in 1979. And sold insurance, started my own agency here in Marion in 1984, went on to partner up with one of my fabulous mentors, bless his soul, Bill Whistler, and we were on East Center Street, 777 East Center Street, catty corner from the OK. And then in 1999, we moved downtown to 196 South Main Street.
Okay.
And at that time, people were asking me, what are you doing? Because downtown was not a very inviting place. And once again, the real estate was cheap. I bought 196. I had been the janitor in that building through high school. My sophomore, junior, and senior year, I was able to go there after football practice or after wrestling practice, and it was perfect.
Yeah,
and
it's great.
And Dave Resch, bless his soul, called me up and said, "This building is for sale." And I said, "Oh, I can't afford it." And well, he worked with me, and I was able to get in to 196. A lot of work to do. and it was frustrating because
Yeah.
it was not a real, favorable place to be. But I could see that it could be good. I didn't have the guts to do what you did, and which has been amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
But we had fun, enjoyed it, endured, and I'm so fortunate.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's a long run. So you said you started in 84, the agency, and then moved downtown in 1999 when you bought that building. It had been a few things prior, right?
Yeah, when I was in high school, it was Lord Sullivan and Yoder, the advertising
Ad agency. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, I would go in after practice. They had a vacuum flow system, which was like that was big time stuff.
High tech, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'd clean the hallways, clean the bathrooms, empty the ashtrays, try to make the place look nice and presentable.
Yeah.
And they were so good to me. I mean, I am. The Lord's been good to me, Luke. I'm a very fortunate person, and one thing led to another, and when I was 16 years old, if you'd have told me that I was going to own that building, I would have laughed at you because it was like, 4-story. It was like the Empire State Building to me.
Right.
I mean, it was enormous.
Yeah.
But
it's a solid building.
Oh.
I mean, we are really fortunate in Marion. I think maybe some folks don't realize, just how fortunate we are with some of the building stock that we have. Really well-built tank buildings. Now, some of them have had varying degrees of deferred maintenance and fallen out of repair and good shape here until, recently when a lot have been renovated and revitalized. But, to have 4 and 5 and 6 and 7-story buildings in our downtown for the size of community we are, it's pretty cool. We have some really nice buildings.
It's fabulous. And I mean, people need to embrace this community. We've talked about that earlier. It's so easy to be negative and it's a lot harder to be positive. But look at the history of this community is amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. I mean, I got involved. There was a cigar factory that was across the street from St. Mary's, JC Newman, and then Senator Harding and a gentleman, Mr. Bindley, who was the head of the chamber, in 1919 brought JC Newman from Cleveland to Marion with the idea of jobs. And in a matter of 2 years, they were the largest. They were making over 4 million cigars, hand rolling cigars, in what is now the Folks Printing Building.
Yeah.
They had the largest humidor in the world. It was in the basement.
Wow.
Yeah, it just and so I was able to go down. Tracy and I, my wife, my lovely wife, who does all the work at the Deli. I'm just part-time.
Yes.
She's full-time.
Yes.
Yeah. But went there and said I would like to rep the JC Newman product. So we're selling to some of the businesses here in Marion, and we're going to then donate some of the proceeds back to the Harding Museum.
Yeah.
So
Super cool. Yeah. So tell me a little more about that, because I feel like I heard pieces of that story at one point, but never the whole thing. So this JC Newman Cigar Company still exists.
Yes.
And obviously not here in town anymore, but they still exist and they're still selling cigars. And so you're a representative for them.
Yes.
And so you're helping distribute those, and some places locally and beyond, it sounds like.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It's, once again, it's the history. And I was like, I didn't realize there would have been that many people who knew how to roll cigars in 1919.
Right.
But if you look, there were very, very little cigarette smoking at that time. I mean, you look at the old movies and they have a big old cigar in their mouth. But it was the women, because things were tough then, and most of their employees were women, but they added it was 400 jobs.
Wow.
Which was amazing. But yeah, in going down there, they're now in basically the garment district of Tampa, which is the cigar district.
Okay.
And they moved there, I think, in 1951. But we want to try to take this to another level, and maybe in the future, knock on wood, one of the Newmans, Bobby Newman, came here, and we met at Derek Mullins's the drinkery, and Derek was so excited, but they're the longest running family operated cigar company in the world.
Wow.
And continuing to grow. They are doing exactly what you're doing in the El Reload district of Tampa, totally refurbishing, doing everything. But we need to get to the point, and maybe something that you and I can work on, because we haven't, to have them maybe come back to Marion storefront with a couple of employees, but somebody who rolls cigars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that'd be a neat experience.
Oh,
kind of seeing the process. Anytime you can see how something is made,
Yeah.
regardless of what it is. I mean, I think that's why, wineries, distilleries, and breweries have really become popular, as well as other experiential type businesses, because there's just a certain authenticity to seeing something that, as a consumer, that you're enjoying, seeing how it's made. And seeing the craftsmanship that goes into different things.
It was amazing, because I went and toured the plant when we were down. My wife and I were down in Florida, and I drove up to Tampa and went there and spent some time with them. And they took me around and, went to the lady who they said was their best cigar roller. And, but they take so much pride.
Yeah.
I mean, and the people. I mean, I talked to, during lunchtime, I went into the lunchroom and spoke to a bunch of them, how well they're taken care of by the Newman family.
Yeah.
I mean, they truly care.
Yeah. I mean, those business principles are transcendent no matter the industry, whether you're making cigars or you're making sandwiches, right? When the team takes pride in the work, it shows in the product, and people enjoy it, and the word spreads. And when the owner takes care of the team, they instill that level of pride and just joy in the work. And so,
now you're
exactly.
giving me goosebumps, because you're exactly right.
Right. Yeah.
That is the key to success.
It is. Yeah. Well, that's a great story. How many years were they in Marion in that building? Do you know?
I can't tell you for sure. I don't think it was the full 32 years, but I think they were there a good 20 years.
Wow.
And maybe I'm wrong, because the El Reload district didn't start until the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And
In
they
Tampa.
said,
Right.
and they said, we got to go there, because that's where all of the cigar makers were for the most part.
Wow. Yeah, great story. Thanks for sharing that little nugget there as well. People are getting a real bonus here on this on this episode. I didn't even know we'd talk about that. But so you ended up having an almost 40-year run as a local independent insurance agent here in Marion, and I just can't imagine the richness of relationships that you've enjoyed during that time.
Oh, no question. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I was put on this earth to take care of people, and I love doing it. I love the smiles. Hey, it's highs and lows. The guy wrecks his car, and it doesn't go well because they put aftermarket parts on, and he wants new parts. But in the end, service. And that's one of the things that we really need to work on, Luke, because the service industry, there's not a whole lot of service left in the service industry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
There's
that's
definitely
pride.
been some.
It's pride.
Yeah.
It's all pride.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely been some challenges there, and I think that that COVID era really was challenging to a lot of different service and hospitality businesses, and some of these businesses that just took such a hit. and we're just literally trying to survive. And I think that some of those qualities slipped. And I'd like to believe that some of that is coming back. And I can't say that maybe on a broad scale that it is everywhere, but I definitely know that in places like Marion and other, smaller communities, that I think there's folks like you and your wife and team that are really working to bring that back, that see that we've slipped a little bit and see that we've maybe gotten away from the roots of, hey, having a restaurant is more than serving food. It's creating an experience. And it's really, truly having hospitality towards our friends and neighbors. And I think that's I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in having the conversations that we have already, I know that that's really why you're doing is it's fun. It's fun to serve people, and especially people that you know and like already.
Yeah. No, I mean, I am a people person. I'm chatty Cathy, but it just feels good.
Yeah.
And when you surround yourself with good people, I have a marvelous team, and they do a great job. And our moniker at the Deli is we put a smile on your belly. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do. And we want people smiling. I'm an eternal optimist, as you are, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today.
That's right. Yep.
And as we always say, our glass is half full, not half empty. But if we can continue to do this and put smiles on people's faces, it changes the entire outlook of our community.
It does.
And I was fortunate enough that Luke called me and said, hey, I'm having this lawn care seminar, and I'm going to send some people over. So a bunch of people, and I didn't know, I thought they'd be from Sandusky and, Columbus and Cincinnati, and the first person in line was a gentleman from Philadelphia. And, he says, I said, where are you from? I'm from Philadelphia. I know about good delis, and this is good. And he said, by the way, there's a lot of pride in this community. Mm-hmm. And I was blown away. I mean, I hadn't heard that, in a long time.
That's right.
And that really is because of you. Plain and simple. So, if we can continue to keep a smile on our face and let that resonate to other people, it isn't an easy job because it's really easy to be negative and
yes, it is.
Tough to be positive, but we're going to get through it. And this is, it's going to be your legacy to turn this community around, and you're well on your way.
Well, I appreciate that, although probably absolutely overstated. It's definitely a community effort, and yes, I think that we're working really hard to push some things forward and to carry out a vision that I believe that was, put on my heart and mind for our community. But man, it can't happen without folks like you coming alongside and saying like, hey, I'll do a building, I'll do a business, and I'm going to do it with excellence, and I'm going to bring something special to the community. And we can look at other examples of folks that have done just the same around the downtown. and it's just really amazing to see what can happen when a group of people come together and are rowing in the same direction.
Yes.
And really looking at it as, hey, Mike, you're not my competitor. You're my friend, and we're working towards the same goal. We both want the same thing for Marion. We both want the same thing for our downtown, and we both want the same thing because we really recognize, I think we're seeing it literally, that this rising tide raises all boats, where, if you're doing well, people are coming to you and you're generating a great amount of foot traffic, and then that's going to naturally spill over to other businesses, retail, or maybe one day they see you've got a line out the door because Luke sent 40 landscapers over to your place, and they're like, well, why don't we just go down the street to buy Ray's, and so they mix it up a little bit, and that's totally fine, right? It's
absolutely,
because we're all winning.
And it's amazing. and Tracy she's gotten involved now in some of the Downtown Marion
Mm-hmm.
things. But some of the business owners are really, really good people.
Yes,
And we
absolutely.
need to support them.
Yes.
I know they hear that all the time, and you hear all the time, there's no reason to come to Downtown Marion. I went to that candy shop, and it was a throwback. I was able to find
lots of fun.
O. Henry, and I was, I
I
need
like
one
those.
of those. Yeah, and I said, hey, can you, there used to be the Hollywood, I think was the name, but they had the zebra bar, and they had a zebra bar. It was white chocolate, big time, and there was 3 of them. Anyway, I said, can you find, she says, I'm going to check. If I find that, I'll let you know. But just walking in, we need to help each other.
Yeah.
That's the idea. And Tracy and I are more than willing to help anybody we can in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the kind of anecdote that you just shared with the fellow from Philadelphia, it's so fascinating, isn't it, that sometimes folks from outside of our community come in and without prompting, they're recounting all of these things that they've seen just in a quick walk around. They're like, I love those cardinals and the art that you've got around here. I noticed that the alleys are bright and lit, and I felt really safe. And it's amazing the amount of boutiques that you have downtown here, and specialty shops like the candy shop and this deli, and these clothing stores and decor and toys and all of this, and great coffee and craft beer, and it's like from the outside they're like, this place is amazing. And yet sometimes it's taking us a while to get some of our own local folks to recognize that there's all of these great new places that have sprung up. Over 50 new businesses in the last 6 years have either started or relocated to Downtown Marion here, and there's more coming all the time.
Well, we need to get them, my saying is, we need to get them to drink the Kool-Aid, Luke.
Right.
I mean, and there's, the mayor came with he and the new lady at the bus department came with a great idea on a bus that will bring people, including anyone who goes to the locations where they pick people up. Yeah. So to bring them down to downtown and to our businesses. And so I think I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that we are heading in the right direction. We're gaining steam. We're not going to have Macy's downtown.
Right.
But there's some things that we can do, and I know you're continuing, and we need to support the people down here because they're working hard. Yeah. They put a lot of their hard-earned money into this, and that's why I'm doing it. Yeah. Because the town has been so good to me, and it's time for me to give back. And I'm hoping there's some Marionites who are thinking, maybe I need to get involved and do something.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned the nighttime moves shuttle. So I'll say a word about that. So they just officially launched that. Did a little unveiling party last night. I went to it and got to see it. Got to get on the bus. I didn't take a ride, but got on the bus. They've got these fun lights inside. It's a brand new bus. I mean, it's beautiful. It's definitely very state of the art, nice, temperature controlled, and they've got a loop that will run every hour from 5 to 11 p.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. And they have this predetermined loop. So basically, it includes several stops around downtown, the OK Cafe as well, Cooper's Bowl on the south end, and then all of the hotels out on 95 at State Route 23. And so it's connecting those folks, which I think is an awesome idea because we have hundreds of thousands of visitors to our community every year, and they're coming to town for business, they're coming for sports tournaments, they're coming for church activities, they're coming for family, and a lot of them just tend to not go beyond the kind of chain strip there on 95, and they're missing out on some of the really truly local, authentic, only found in Marion experiences. And so I love that our city leadership is taking a step out on this. And honestly, they are really being recognized already as an innovator around the state. ODOT is championing this project to say, hey, look at what they're doing in Marion with this new shuttle project to help connect different parts of their city, tourists, residents, making it a safe experience, making it a convenient experience. So it's really exciting to see. And just another example of everyone rowing in the same direction, seeing a need and then someone stepping up and saying, I can meet that need. And I think there's an opportunity that's going to be a win all the way around. So, I think it's great.
Well, I want them all to jump on the bus, and not only that bus, but the bus to develop Downtown Marion.
Yeah.
Because it's exciting. Once you get in, is it frustrating? Yes, it's frustrating. It's peaks and valleys, but in the end, it's very rewarding. And when people come in, that's the best thing about the Deli is seeing a lot of my old insurance clients and my friends. Have a group of ladies. There was 10 of them. They're going to come every month that I graduated high school with.
Okay.
And haven't seen some of them. And I'm an emotional guy, and I was tearing up when they came in. They said, we're going to come every month, and I was like, wow.
That's great.
They can't steal our memories.
Yeah. That's very cool. So we like to do this segment on each of these podcasts, Mike, that I call the Leap segment. So it's basically thinking back to the moment where you'd been kind of dreaming about this, you'd kind of had the thought, you'd done some research, you'd talked with your wife, I'm sure, started to think what a team would look like, what a building would look like, and then it was time to actually move forward with this idea and make your thoughts and dreams a reality. Do you remember that specific moment in time where you're like, you know what? We're just going to do this. Walk us through that a little bit.
Well, it's funny you say that. We were down in Florida, and that was when we had gone to, or I had gone to JC Newman in Tampa. And Tracy's goal had always been to move to Florida. Her best friend's down there, and they grew up together through grade school. And they were going to, the plan was they were going to live side by side. And so we went down to spend a month and kind of feel things out. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I went fishing, but I don't golf. And to just sit there, and it was like, okay. So I kind of talked about it, and Tracy kind of was resigned to the fact that, no, we weren't going to be moving to Florida. And I love you, honey. So we came back, and I kind of thought, I was going to do this Deli. I had gone, my father's side of the family is from Cleveland, and when I was 12, I went to Slyman's, which is a famous corned beef place. Mm-hmm. And I got this sandwich, and it was like 6 inches thick. Mm-hmm. And of course, I had a 30-inch waist and a 10-inch inseam at that time. And I had some of the Zuckers were in the food business in Cleveland. So I came back, and two people that really carried me through this, Luke, were Mike Mastro and Joe Sansoda. Two restaurateurs that knew what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of bounced it off them. And, is this just going to toilet, or is this, going to have a chance to make it?
Yeah.
And, we worked on it, and I picked their brain, and because I knew nothing about the food business.
Right.
I know how to put a hot dog in a microwave, okay? That's about the extent of my food. But so we got the ball rolling, and then it was time to get a team together as far as the architect and a contractor and et cetera, et cetera. And then Tracy bought in, and she's like, I will help. And she had her own jewelry business and still does, but she's, spending an awful lot of time at the deli, and without her, this wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, yeah. Now, had the two of you ever worked together?
No.
Did she ever? She never worked in your business before?
No, and I always said, it's the greatest way to get a divorce.
Right.
Right. I mean, and so we had never done that, but it's been enjoyable and trying.
Yeah.
And long hours. I mean, as I say, Tracy works a ton, but in the beginning, you have to put those hours in order to make it work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that certainly resonates. My wife and I never worked together before we started doing some stuff downtown, and now we've worked together on a few different business ventures, and she's very involved in Downtown Marion Inc. and different collaboratives and community events and downtown stuff all the time, and we're doing that all the time, and it can be very high. When things are clicking and you're like, hey, this is what we dreamed of, this is what we've been working together towards. And then sometimes it could be pretty low as well, right? I mean, where it's like we both tried our best and we thought this was going to work out, and apparently nobody else seemed to be quite as excited about it as we were.
Yes.
And you have to sort of pick each other up a little bit when you're both feeling kind of discouraged. And that can be hard to do, as a couple personally, and then also working together.
Well put.
Yeah.
Well put.
So what about Cameron? Tell us a little bit about the story about how you ended up linking up with him and getting him involved in the vision for this.
And that was due to Joe Sansoda.
Okay.
He said, hey, I've got you a chef. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, and he's from here in Marion. And he had gone to Columbus State and became a chef. And I knew his father a little bit because he was on the Harding baseball team that made it to the state finals.
Okay, yeah.
So talked to him. We spent a lot of time together early on, going up to Mastro's BW3 up in Tiffin, and spent time with Mike and spent a lot of time with Joe, and it's been good. He's a very good bake. I mean, very good. His products are good.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, when in the beginning he was like, this is really going to be exciting because a lot of chefs end up being dishwashers.
Yeah.
Because it's just not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and he's performed well. And I'm the dishwasher now.
When did you get promoted? Because you were sweeping the floors last time I saw you.
Well, I'm trying to move up, and now I got my master's degree in dishwashing.
Okay, good.
So I'm working on cleaning the parking lot.
Okay.
And the alley but I was doing that yesterday. I had my leaf blower and I was blowing the stones back in, from the sidewalk, etc. But it's a good feeling, Luke, to see stuff get cleaned up, and
right.
you stand there. I mean, I'm so big on that. When I work in the yard, I work for 8 hours and do this, and then when I'm done, you look at it. Oh, man, this looks pretty good, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
And we're starting to take that approach on. I just, this town, I can't express how much how great I feel about this town and how lucky I was.
Yeah.
I mean, that there were people the mentors and my family members and friends and the people who helped me to get to where I am today. And I just never want to forget where I came from.
Yeah, I love that. I think that there might be some people that would hear this, Mike, and say, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's nice that you've had that experience, but I see things that are wrong with Marion. what would you say to that individual?
I would tell that person that well, first of all, I'd sit down with them and ask them why they feel that way. And then I would say, I think that you're predominantly looking at all of the negatives. And I think we need to look at the positives.
Yeah.
Because the negatives outweighed I mean, think about it. I remember I would shudder when I watched the 6 o'clock news, because if you saw the 4, 6, or 10 van in Marion, it wasn't for a good reason.
No.
Okay, never, ever.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, there's good stuff going on.
Yeah.
And people love to dwell on the negative.
Yeah.
And as I had said earlier, it's easy to do that.
It is.
It's hard to be positive. But if we spend the time with the people and hear them out, some of them you're never going to be able to, some people just can never be pleased. I mean, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And there's some people that never will take no for an answer, and that's you and I.
Right.
So I would sit down with them, talk to them, let them know that it's available.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that, there's help available.
Yeah. 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 What you focus on expands. I think we've heard that saying before. And when we focus on positive opportunities, we see more positive opportunities. And when we focus on negative things, we tend to find more negative things.
Yeah.
And, we were talking a little bit before we went on here that I think that it's so easy to think sometimes that some of our challenges and issues here in our hometown are unique to us. But when we get out and visit other communities, there's a lot of other communities very similar to Marion around our state. We were talking about some of them earlier, Springfield, Zanesville, Lancaster, Lima, Findlay. I mean, these cities are like almost the same size, demographic mix, history of good days and bad days, and they've had some of the very same challenges and black eyes through the time, and they're the ones that are succeeding are doing the things that I believe that we're doing also, and that it takes a group of people in the private sector and the public sector all being courageous, being creative, and moving things forward. I think good days are ahead.
You're eloquent, Luke. That is perfectly exactly right.
Yeah. So it's exciting to see, not without challenges, and but for whatever reason, I think that we're sometimes our biggest critics from within. And I don't, as you mentioned, there's been some periods of time where the news media, for whatever reason, kind of got Marion in their sights and sort of made us the whipping boy for certain societal ails that, again, existed in the exact same prevalence in other communities our size.
Positively.
Same prevalence,
Yes.
Whether it was certain, violence or drugs or whatever. You look at the actual statistics and they were the exact same in some of those other cities that I mentioned.
Your point on that.
Yeah. But I'm also really excited. We're working on putting some statistics together about the amount of decrease in crime in Marion in the last, especially 8 to 10 years, is staggering. I mean, we're talking 70, 80% reductions. I don't know if you've seen some of those statistics, but it's amazing. And I think that some of those will be really telling to the good work that's happening. You clean things up. You have a great police force. You have proactive, city public servants that are doing programs like Impact and things in the schools and in the community and just doing a lot of the right things. And you start to get the right results over time.
Yeah, and a lot of those people are vested in turning it around. The police department, sheriff's department, everybody. I mean, our local, officials, the judges and the prosecutors, and everybody seems to be on the same page now, and it's definitely getting much, much better.
Yeah. Hey, and are there still challenges?
Oh,
Yeah, there
oh,
are.
They're going to be forever.
Yeah, and do these agencies or some of these judges or prosecutors or whoever, do they always get it right? No, they don't.
No.
And I think that we can dwell on some of that, or we can continue to maintain high standards for our community and work hard together to make it be what
Yeah.
it can be.
Oh,
what we believe it
positively.
can
There's
be.
only one perfect person, and he's not here. So mistakes can be made, but we need to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this has been a lot of fun, Mike. Just kind of hearing your full journey. I'd heard bits and pieces of it through the time, but to hear the full thing has been really, really neat. And also the journey of kind of how this latest business venture has come to be is really exciting as well. And I mean, as you look to the future, share with us a little bit. Do you have plans of expanding the menu or anything like that, or you're still, you feel like you're really in the sweet spot now and figuring out hours and some of that stuff?
No, we want to try to get a year in to feel. I mean, it's new. Every day is new.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen in the winter, foot traffic wise, so we need to just continue to build the history of this business and how it works and, what we need to do. We definitely want to, I'm thinking that we need to get in to have a butcher shop or some fresh meats. I'm not necessarily a butcher shop, but carry some local, corn-fed beef, pork, things of that nature. Want to get into giving the people what they want.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of it's just listening to what people tell you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's great. You're on the front lines. The great thing about a small business and a family business is that the feedback loop is really short. It's like you put something out there, people either buy it or they don't. They give you good feedback or they don't.
Yep.
They come back or they don't. And so you start to really see what works. You ask the people what they want, and then you try to deliver it with excellence, and you keep iterating. So it sounds like that's what your plan is.
It's a challenge, but it's a good challenge.
Yeah.
And we got a lot to learn. I will say that, so many people, I hope you stay, nobody ever stays, and we're going to endure.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the right things. And so you're going to get there. And it might look different in a year or two or five.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But that's the way of business. You've got to adapt as the market adapts and the community adapts and all of that. So
well, and I want to hear what people want so that we can, hey, I've talked to you. I think that we need a hardware store in downtown Marion. and unfortunately, it's not going to be like because we Turner Hardware and Crawbaugh and Snow's Racket Shop. You go in and I need a R67 42-11 piece for my whatever. Oh yeah, well, and they come walking out with it. But I'm all in on downtown Marion.
Yeah.
I just I'm not going to take no for an answer. We are going to make it happen. It's going to take a village.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to back you, and we need to help you. And go on. I'm computer illiterate, but I actually when I was in Florida, I finally got a email address. My wife hooked me up when we had time to spend. Yeah. So, but the email that you have that shows the buildings that are available, offices that are available downtown. People need to. I'm going to, start talking and chatting about that to people.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of beautiful. Some of the things that you've done. 181, where I met with Dostal and Kirk the other day.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly nice building, and the rear of it with you, what you have done for employees to be able to sit outside and
Right.
eat. And so,
Yeah.
I'm going to pat you on the back.
Yeah, thank you.
You deserve, a hooray.
Yeah, that was a fun project. So yeah, Connect Co works, and we actually just had Logan Kirk was our last podcast guest. So
okay.
yeah, so folks, if they hadn't listened to that, I encourage you to do that. But yeah, so we had Logan on talking about his journey and then their move to downtown, and we also talked some insurance. So I'm sure you would have enjoyed that conversation as well.
they're
Talking about
fabulous. They're
how
fabulous.
things are changing and how folks can adapt in their business and personal policies to try to make sure they're staying current and also save money in the kind of in current rate environment that's a little more challenging.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm kind of glad
thankfully you
I'm
don't
out
have
of
to
it now.
have some of those tough conversations. Yeah, that's again, that's you're in a great spot. Decided not to do the full retirement thing, but you can do a fun business where you don't. It's still stressful at times, but maybe not quite as much pressure as some of that stuff that you dealt with in the past.
You're exactly right.
As you look, and I will thank you for that plug also, by the way. So we do have, if folks, I since you brought it up, I'll accept your alley-oop and say that we do
Please
have
do.
a developing newsletter that I send out every Friday morning. And so it goes out and it shares just a few stories from the week about maybe folks that we've hosted in town or events that are coming up. Or, as you said, occasionally we send out spaces that we have available or give updates on projects that we're working on. And so it's not always just our stuff that we're working on. We're also talking about if there's Downtown Marion events or Palace events or new businesses like yours coming to the community and that kind of thing, just to keep folks apprised in a different way, because not everyone is on social media. Not everyone sees all the updates there. Not everyone listens to the podcast, although I appreciate those of you that are. But some are more looking to consume that information via email. And so I started that a few months ago and have gotten good response from
I'm sure.
some folks. Just, we are all in as well, Mike. When you say that, obviously I am as well, and feel similarly that, there's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to be excited about. And we got to make sure that we get the word out. And so that's what I spend a lot of my days doing, whether through this format or the email or other tours or talks that I'm giving, just to share with folks locally and beyond what all's going on here in downtown Marion. So with that, I mean, if you don't mind sharing, what's something that you're excited about as you look forward for downtown Marion?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is just the people, coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to that because they're going to continue to come.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about when the place is just exuberant. I mean, it's hustle and bustle, and because it carries over into the rest of it, into the school systems,
Yeah.
into the law enforcement and the other things. I'm excited too to see some of these young ladies and young men that take on this endeavor to open their own business, to see them become successful.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and they're going to take the place of this old fart as I move off. But I'm never gonna. I mean, it's just, I don't know what it is, Luke, and you maybe. I know you feel it too, and I can't explain it, but I just don't want to take no for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And when they tell you, you can't do that can't happen,
Mm-hmm.
that just adds gasoline to my fire.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I want to get it to the point where people say, you know what, you were right.
Yeah.
And not for my ego,
Right.
but just for our community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of really good stuff going on right
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, with that, we'll kind of wrap it up here. I sure appreciate
Luke,
once again,
Luke,
Mike.
I was a little hesitant, and my wife was like, "Mike, you need to do that." I was like, but thank you very, very much for having me. And hey, you need to check this young man out because he's got it going.
Thank you. Yep. So appreciate all of our listeners as well tuning in here. We hope that you'll continue to follow along for additional episodes coming up. Be sure to visit Mike's Deli on Main. If you would just briefly here share if someone is looking to find you, Mike, what's your address, hours, all that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We're open from 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 2 on Saturday. We're located at 153 South Main Street, which is right beside the Marion Brewing Company. And yeah, come on down and let us put a smile in your belly.
There it is. Okay, you'll see Mike's smiling face, his wife Tracy, the real workhorse there.
Yes.
Very talented Cameron, whipping things up, and the rest of the team. So encourage you to visit soon. So Mike, thank you once again, and all of you for listening. We sure appreciate you being with us. Thanks for listening to the Main Street Reimagined podcast. To learn more about Main Street Reimagined, Henry Development Group, or our work in downtown Marion, Ohio, please visit mainstreetreimagined.com. If you want to connect, or if you know someone who we need to interview, shoot us an email at info@mainstreetreimagined.com. Until next time, keep dreaming and don't be afraid to take the leap.